tuned into Breaking the Mask of Depression with your host, Diva with Depression.
Hey everybody, welcome to Breaking the Mask of Depression with the Diva with Depression, and I am me, the Diva with Depression. I hope everybody is doing well. I hope that you're feeling okay, and I hope that you're finding a little bit of peace and joy. Can you guys believe that it's freaking March already? Like really? Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm convinced that the time is just slipping away. Like, because we're in 2023, we're in the third month, and it just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, happy Women's History Month. It's a big month. Black History Month is a big month, and Women's History Month is a big month. So take some time and do some research, or love on your women in your life and make them feel better. Now, fellas, since it's Women's History Month, I have one or two subjects that I'm going to talk about that might gross you out. So you can either not listen, or you should listen so you know what's going on with the women in your life and your daughters and, your moms and all of the women in your life. You have to start, Ben, you have to start listening, because you need to be, you got to help. You got to help. So today we are talking about PCOS. Fucking PCOS has made my life a living hell. I don't even know where to begin. It's something that affects women at this large amount of women in the world, and it's not diagnosed easily. You have to go through all sorts of hoops and jump over cars and everything else to get the doctors to finally treat you for it. And I'm going to tell you before I start that if you are living with PCOS, I feel you. I feel you. Maybe we should start a support group, because that shit is crazy. So let's start with, of course, my Google facts. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a hormonal disorder that causes enlarged ovaries with enlarged follicles, and they can cause small cysts on the outer edge of your ovaries. That right there, I should make that the end of the show, right? Because that's enough, cysts and follicles and all sorts of bullshit. So, women with PCOS have high levels of testosterone, and, like I said, the enlarged ovaries and the brutal periods. And the brutal periods. Okay, I'm gonna keep giving you the facts, and then we'll talk about me. So the Mayo Clinic basically said they don't know the cause, and it can't be cured. Maybe some abnormal hormonal levels. They don't know. Nobody knows how to cure it and what causes it. And another thing to add to my fucking crazy life, right? I got depression that can't be cured. I got PCOS that can't be cured. Listen, just take me on, okay? I'm tired. I'm tired. It's ridiculous. So, my experience with PCOS is this. Of course, my bout with depression has been a long, long journey, and it started when I was younger, but it started to get bad in 2005. And that's when, it had to be monitored. I had to be monitored and everything. So when I started having extra symptoms on top of that, they just felt, the doctors just kept saying, "Oh, it's depression. Oh, it's your depression. Oh, it's the depression meds." Okay. And this is the primary care physician. I think that I think that I did go to a gynecologist and, nothing. And so I would, when my period came every day. I mean, the bleeding just got worse and worse and worse. And guys, let me tell you, I, it was so bad that there were days that I had like a hand towel in my pants because it was just gushing, gushing, gushing blood. Like, I said maybe I had 7 days out of the month that I wasn't bleeding. And so I was like, this is ridiculous. And so, of course, when it comes to me, I blame everything on depression. I do. I really do because, when you have a mental illness, there's so many unknown symptoms that you just don't know, what is a mental illness and what is a physical illness and where they meet. And so I just passed everything off. And the doctors just kept saying, I don't know, could be this, could be that. And, you know, that's it. What is that to say? So finally, my sister gave me the name of a doctor and told me to go there. And it changed my life. It changed my life. The doctor is amazing. And if you are in the Charlotte area and you want to, you want the hookup, just message me. But I did find a gynecologist, and he is the first person out of, I want to say about 8 years of struggling. He is the first doctor that diagnosed me with PCOS. And I wanted to hug him. I just wanted to hug him because it was a mess. And so, when I walked in, I mean, he already knew who I was because, my sister, she already told him I was coming. So he knew who I was and knew, a few things about me. But um, I was just so happy that somebody finally understood that there was something more going on. Like, I would be at work, sidebar, I would be at work. This is when I was, working in a call center and doing a night shift. And there was, I'm at work and you could just, it's just, I know, I don't want to be gross. I don't want to be gross. But could you imagine being at work and this is going on? Like, it's, so by the time I got to the doctor, I wanted to hug him. I wanted to marry him. It didn't matter, like this was going to be my savior. I saw like lights and stuff all over him. it was um it was funny. So um this is what I told him. Now I we talked about my history of depression. We talked about how old my children were, and I told him point blank, just take everything out because I ain't having no more kids. Um, and he laughed at that. But here are some of the symptoms that I broke it down because I sat here and I thought about it. So, fatigue. The fatigue is brutal. Um, I have recently, I told you guys last year, the doctor diagnosed me with chronic fatigue syndrome. And I think that the fatigue from PCOS is pretty much similar. I mean, you're exhausted all the time. And I have insomnia. But if you're somebody that sleeps through the night and you wake up and you're still tired, that's a problem. Headaches. Again, I always had headaches. I always had migraines. I was stressed. So it wasn't, that didn't, blow any whistles for me. Um, Weight gain. Listen, we're not even going to talk about the weight gain, okay? We're just going to pass over that. and so, and so they did an ultrasound, and they did find cyst, and I did have PCOS, and so One of the things that they do, one of the medications that they give you for PCOS is metformin. If any of you take metformin, you know it's it's horrible. But I was really upset. I got really upset because, like I said, knee deep in breakdown, knee deep in depression, and here comes PCOS that's going to add some more shit to my plate, and it wasn't fair. It's not fair. So the connection between PCOS and your mood disorder, yes, PCOS does affect your mood. The symptoms could be mood changes, the symptoms, anxiety, depression, and just plain old feeling fucked up because you're hairy, fat, and moody. Okay? Did we talk about the hair growth on the face? You know, sometimes you just want to cornrow it. It just keeps growing. Like, where does it come from? Where? You know, uh, I don't get it. We go through so much as women. Like, our bodies go through so much that give us a break. Okay? Like, please. I don't need to be fat and hairy on top of everything else that I got going on. But here we are, fat, moody, and hairy. And it's not fun. Well, it is funny. Like, you listen, guys. Let's make a joke. We gotta laugh so we don't cry. But I don't want you to think that this is not serious because it really, really is serious, and it really, really can do damage if you don't get the proper care. So, one of the dangerous and side effects, one of the dangerous side effects of PCOS is diabetes. I know, I know. So, for me, they found the cyst, and he hadn't decided what to do yet, and I had to go on metformin. And metformin is supposed to regulate because they're saying that PCOS affects your testosterone levels and messes with your insulin. So they put you on metformin. Now, if like I said, if you take metformin, you understand why I threw them shits under the couch somewhere. I don't even know where they're at because depression meds fuck me up enough. When you start adding stuff, I, after a while, it was just, ugh, I couldn't do it anymore. So, there were many days that I didn't take it. Now, I'm not telling you not to take it, but there were some days that I didn't take it because, like I said, I take so many medications, and it's already hard to function. So, after all the tests were done, he decided that he was going to operate. And so, one thing that I was fortunate about is that I was finished having children. And so he was able to do the operation and address the cyst and tie my tubes because he felt that tying my tubes would also help the PCOS. And so that's what we did. And I think it worked a little bit, but not much because the next year I ended up having a hysterectomy. And after I had the hysterectomy, the symptoms, well, like you're not getting a menstrual cycle anymore. So, that was good. Like I didn't have, yeah, I felt like I bled for like years. I lost a year's worth of blood sometimes. Um, so, yes, I did have back to back surgeries. Like I said, I had the cyst removed, and I had my tubes tied, and then the next year I had to have a full hysterectomy. And I think I still have a cyst somewhere. Um, but you know, unfortunately, that we're women and we have so much going on inside of our bodies, and so it's so hard to detect it because things can just hide and hide and hide. And you know, we give birth, we feed babies, and there's always something going on with a woman's body. And so even if you tackle one symptom and solve that, something else always pops up. And so not everybody is that lucky. um, Not everybody is at the age where they don't want to have any more children. And PCOS can definitely affect fertility. And that's heartbreaking. You know, I know how I feel about my babies. And I wish for everyone to have that experience. And, you know, if, I'm talking to people, women, if you are having these symptoms and you do want to have children in the future, listen to this whole episode. And then the next day, I'll tell you what to do the next day. But, you know, I hate to hear when people are having fertility issues. It really does. It breaks my heart. So, and then, you know, about 5 million women are in danger of not having children because of PCOS. And the shitty thing is that it's always misdiagnosed. Like, I was told to lose weight. I was told that my depression meds were the problem. I was told that, when it, I don't even remember what they told me, but it was so many things and nobody detected it. Like, it took years. So, we don't have years. What if you are 30 and you wanted to have, kids by the time you were 35, but then here comes PCOS, and that takes another 5 years to, be diagnosed, and then another 2 years to be treated. But the time is gone. And I'm not saying that, sidebar, I'm not saying that women can't have babies in their 40s. I think it's amazing that we are living at a time when women can wait, until they are absolutely ready to have children. You don't have to rush and have them at 25 anymore, so you can fit it in. I think it's amazing. But if you are constantly being misdiagnosed, the real issue cannot be treated. And then that can affect you having children. And that is sad. 5 million women, 6 million women, um, PCOS is messing them up. This is how serious it is. And so, I had to go on another Google search because I really wanted to know about black women and PCOS, because I will tell you that out of my circle of friends at the time, at least 4 of us were going through the same thing at the same time. 4 of us. And I think most of us were at the age that we were finished having children, but we were all going through it. And so I had to look it up. Like, I know the sisters are being affected. I know my Latina sisters are being affected. So, the RSP Health, according to RSP Health, black women are disproportionately affected by PCOS. Of fucking course. Like, isn't that always the case? We have fucked up healthcare, we got fucked up food deserts, we got fucked up diets because we had fucked up supermarkets. We're screwed because of lack of knowledge, lack of health care, lack of doctors that give a shit. Like it, nobody gives a shit anymore. Um, I, I remember as I got to be a teenager and going to doctors in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and now that I think back, like they really didn't give a shit. Some of them was like this is just a job to me. I don't care what happens to you, and throw medicine at something. But and that's around the world in many of the black and brown communities. Um, you have supermarkets, stale bread, rotten meat. No fruits and vegetables come in rotten, um, and you don't have the ability to drive to a better supermarket. And if you do take the bus, then you got to come back or take a cab or whatever, because these are the things that we have to go through in our neighborhoods. And so I had to take a pause because I get angry. I get angry that we're in 2023 and we're still struggling with the same shit. Um, it's too much. But just remember that disproportionately affects black women and the reasons why. And so please take that into consideration if you do start feeling like it's a problem. And here's the other thing, more fucked up news. PCOS runs in families. Okay? So if you have PCOS, it's probably because the generation before you had PCOS and you can pass on PCOS. And so I said, my poor babies. I just fucked my kids up. I gave them everything. All the bad stuff. Like they got to get depression. They got to get PCOS. They got to, like I feel so bad for my pumpkins. I love them so much. And I gave them all this crap. And I'm laughing, but guys, there's days when I really, really do cry about that. Now, the only good thing about my situation is their dad's family. Oh boy, diabetes runs rampant in their dad's family. So my kids had to be watched from birth. Not even birth, while I was pregnant. Um, with my second, I had gestational diabetes. And so that was pretty bad. But so, of course, she had to be monitored from the womb to outside to now. Um, but that is why it's not lucky, but that is why I was able to start noticing the symptoms in me. And then I made sure that they would, pay attention to the system, the symptoms in them if they thought that that was a problem. And I will tell you that it's a problem. We do pass it around. Um, and I'm not just talking about myself. Like I told you, at least four of us at the same time. And so you can pay attention to how your daughters may be acting or how your mother acted. And then remember that we can throw menopause into that. Because if you're tired and you're sweating and you're this and you're hot flashing and all that stuff, that's another thing that they do. Oh, you're just in menopause. Sir, I'm 31 years old. What menopause am I in? Okay. It just so happened that I was. When I tell y'all, I'm like screwed up from the beginning. But I did have premenopause. But anyway, at 30 you're not having menopause, so we can pretty much rule that out. But if you pay attention to the women around you, now that you hear what I'm saying and the information that I'm giving you, you start to get to that aha moment like, okay, that sort of makes sense. And don't ignore it. We have a habit of, and I'm not just talking about black women, I'm talking about women in general. We have a habit of, we'll run to the doctor if it gets severe, like if your headache's out of control, or, you know, your hip is out of place or something. It has to really, really, really be bad for us to go to the hospital, because 9 times out of 10, we can't. We have to take care of our families, we have to work, and so you just put a band-aid on and keep going. And this is why some of us have high rates, the highest rates with some of these illnesses: breast cancer, ovarian cancer. And these things are being caught too late because we were so busy being in that superwoman mode that we made sure that those kids were on at their every doctor appointment, every dentist appointment, everywhere that they needed to be. But we didn't pay attention to us. And so this is what I want you to do. Take your ass to the doctor. Okay? Right now. Well, not right now, but as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, take your ass to the doctor. I'm serious. And if they try to give you the runaround and, give you shit, break out your research. You could even break out this podcast and break out your list of symptoms. And guys, I'm going to tell you, always keep a list of symptoms. You should see my phone. When last year, when I started getting sick in January, I couldn't remember all of the things that were happening to my body. So by the time I got to the doctor, I didn't. I was lost. So I started putting in the notes section, in my phone, and when I would be going to the doctor and she comes and she starts, well, what's wrong? I'd break out my notes, and that's important. Pay attention to what's going on with your body and make a note of it. And I want to tell you another thing that I do, another secret. Because I have been on every depression medicine known to man, I learned to start researching my medications. So if okay, there's one medication that I've taken for years, on and off. But when I go to pick up the medication, I go, I read the fact sheet that they print out. But I also, of course, go to Google and look up the medication and some of the possible side effects. And then that way I know, if something is off, that it could be I could attribute that to the medication. So that's another thing. Like, always research your medications and keep a list of that too, because it's important. And if you are a mommy and you have daughters, older daughters, and not too old, because this can start around 25 years old. And if you're having kids at 25 like I did, that can trigger these symptoms and maybe possibly start you early on PCOS. I forgot to mention that women that got their periods early originally, another thing, that their hormone levels, which I learned, is that because their hormone levels are mixed up, and so they start menstruated early, and these type of things can come up later on. So keep a list of your symptoms, keep a list of your medications, and when you go to that doctor, tell them everything, because like I said, I probably lost a year's worth of blood by the time I got diagnosed. And whew, it was just, I don't wish that on anybody. And on top of, I'm in the middle of a breakdown and already going through something, and here comes stupid PCOS. So that's why I decided to, you know, talk about this today because, you know, most times when you have a mood disorder or a mental illness, it does affect your physical. And we don't think about the mind and body connection. And so we won't think that physically there's something wrong. We will have a physical issue once after we started taking the depression medication, and then we automatically pass that over to the depression medication instead of finding out what's wrong with the physical and separately finding out what's wrong with the mental, and then meeting in the middle and figure out how you're going to attack it. So this is what this is why I was like, I've had this episode written for like a month, and it kept getting pushed back and pushed back because I thought it was so important to talk about because of how much it can affect your mental illness and how the diagnosis can get lost and everything else. So, let me tell you some of the things that pay attention to. Number one, extra body hair. And, you know, I'm, listen, a lot of us have beards. My granny, she used to, every day, she used to talk about her chin hairs, and, try to get these, take these, make sure you get this, and you make sure you get that. And I was like, oh my God, I hope I never ever, get to that point. Well, here we are. And, my granny's not here anymore, but when I started, I remember the first time that I found like a couple of hairs on my chin. All I could do was laugh. And I did. I laughed out loud. And I said, Granny, look what you did to me. But, you know, extra hair on your face and in your other areas, but we'll pay attention to the hairs on our face more than we would pay attention to, say, the hair down there, or, your underarm hair, or everywhere else. So pay attention to extra hair on your face if you get it. High blood pressure. And that was another thing. They wanted to throw blood pressure medicine at me in addition to the metformin and and take mood disorder medication. It wasn't happening. Check your height, check your weight, and your BMI. Now, I'm not saying that your weight doesn't affect PCOS because I'm sure it does. It absolutely does. And so, when somebody says you have to lose weight so you can get rid of these symptoms, I understand that part of it. But being overweight is not the problem for every fucking thing. And them damn doctors will tell you that. Everything is, oh, you got to lose some weight. Oh, you got to change your diet. That is not always the reason why we're sick. And so you do it yourself. You check your weight and keep track of it. Try to keep track of your BMI. And once you realize that you've kept track of all of these things and that you know that something is wrong, you go to the doctor. You tell them to check your blood sugar, check your insulin levels, your hormone levels. They have hormone tests out there. They can test your thyroid, and that's another thing that runs through family, thyroid disorders. So if you're in that position and you make them check that too, because you don't need anything extra. And if you do end up at the GYN, make sure that that you talk to them about getting an ultrasound, because that's what finally got me a diagnosis. And if they didn't do the ultrasound and go in and find those cysts, then they might have ignored it. Um, and yeah, ask them to give you an ultrasound. And I think that the ultrasound, more than anything, like even more than the symptoms, tells the doctor more than, the PCOS symptoms. So don't listen to their shit if, about expensive tests and all of that. Listen, give me my shit. Take these damn tests and give it to me. So, you know, don't let them tell you that, you're fat and that's the reason why. Fat does not make you have a full fucking beard, okay? So, that's my thing for today. That's my lecture. But if you're unsure about what's going on, Google is my dude. Always Google. And there is loads of information out there. I have so many fact sheets that I got off of Pinterest. So next to Pinterest and Google, yeah, they give you everything. So tell yourself that you're going to take your ass to the doctor. And if the doctor says something, tell them that you listened to a moody ass podcaster and she said that I better go to the doctor. I got your back. I got your back. So, like I said, it is Women's History Month. So, I want to tell you to do something special for the women in your life. It could be your bestie, it could be your mom, your sister, someone that, just anyone that inspires you. Um, I'm short story. I participated in an interview this past weekend, with my brother and my sister, and it was about caring for someone, well, caring for someone that has a mental illness. Like how do they interact with me? And when I listened to my sister talk about me, I got teary eyed, because of course, we have each other's back. We've been friends for 20 something years. All of my friends, like, we all got each other's back. But when you hear someone talk about you and talk about what you mean to them and what you do for them, it really touches a piece of your soul. And we all want to be loved. So, do what I said. Even if maybe you have to have a girls' trip or go, you know, I don't know, go have some drinks. A group of y'all, go have some drinks, do something exciting. But celebrate the women in your life, including yourself. So, I hope that you guys have a great week. Listen, I want you guys to go to www.divawithdepression.com and subscribe, because I need y'all to subscribe. Like, I need to know that you're out there. I need to know that you're listening. If you want to leave reviews, please, I welcome them, because I'm doing this for you guys. And I want to continue to give you the information that you need. So go to my website, subscribe. If you don't want to do that, follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and, all of those things, and we can interact that way. But I really want you to, subscribe and let's hang out, like, let's do something. Maybe I can start sending y'all emails just to say hi or whatever. You never know. And especially with me, it could be 2 o'clock in the morning and I'll be like, well, let me just send out an email blast to all of my followers and let them know what's on my mind. So, yes, please go to all of those places, the website, the social media, say hi, leave a message, and leave a review, anything that you want. But I hope that you guys stay peaceful, stay well. I know that everybody says that the C word is over, but the numbers are still kind of messy. So please be careful, stay safe, go follow Illumination Technology, and get some help with your techie needs. But please be well, be peaceful, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Sometimes realize that